All right, everybody, welcome to the Green Fork Food for Thought podcast. I'm your host, Steven Zabala. Today we have Kira Kenyon. She's the owner of Keeping Well with Kira. She does nutrition therapy. She's a nutrition therapy practitioner. She's an athletic trainer, a nature enthusiast, entrepreneur. She's one of the smartest women I know.
Oh,
She's
thank
got
you.
so much knowledge. And it's been a while since we've actually had a conversation. We used to all the time, but so I'm just excited to get to talk to you again. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I have to stop hitting my rings against the glass, but
It's cool, a little ASMR.
yeah, well, I'll just tap them. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited that you have a podcast because when I worked in the gym and had my office there, you would always like pop in and be like, "Oh, have you read this book? Have you heard about this?" And we would like chit chat all the time, but
Yeah.
now we don't see each other as much, so this is like a fun opportunity for us. So thank you so much for
For
inviting
sure.
me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And I miss those conversations.
I know.
You know, a lot of times it feels like as a coach, I'm always like giving information to people, you know, and it's sort of a not like reciprocal, but when you talk to someone that also is into this kind of stuff, like-minded people, you get stuff back too, you know, you get information back, and then we're both kind of studying the same things and reading cool stuff, and you know, we just turn each other on to so many like new things
Yeah.
that I really miss that.
Yeah.
So that's part of like the reason why I'm doing this, you know, and I'm super excited and super grateful to the Five Towers media team for helping me out and putting this all together. But anyways, so you do a lot of things. You are, like I said, a nutrition therapy practitioner. I want to know what that's like. But for everybody out there that doesn't know you, how did you get started in this? Like, what's your story?
It's long.
Let's go.
Okay. When I was born. No, I'm just kidding. So I wanted initially, like in college, I actually wanted to become an athletic trainer to work with dancers. That was my like thing. I had a minor in dance in college. And so that was always like my goal. But then I graduated, realized that I have a lot of debt that I need to pay off.
Yeah.
So I just like took a job in collegiate athletics because like that's what I was trained in and that's a job that was available. And then I continued working in collegiate athletics. I was working at D1 school and I got way burnt out. And at that time I was like, I wanted to practice athletic training in a different way than what was allowed in athletics. Athletics is just like stretch and tape.
Yeah.
And ice. And goodbye.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work with like movement. I wanted to like rehab people and like really like, why isn't your foot pronating and what's your shoulder mobility like? And I wanted to take it a little bit deeper. So that's when I opened Move Mentality. I feel like my business has had 8 different names without actually having different names.
I wasn't sure what to call it. You got a bunch of things going on.
I don't know. I don't even have a business now, really. So it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. But we'll just go with like Instagram, which is Keeping Well with Kira.
Yeah.
So I opened my business, Move Mentality, doing athletic training just for like the average person. I just wanted to help normal people feel better. And eventually, working with people, I came to realize that like I'm really good at helping people get out of chronic pain. Like that's where I thrive because I love pain science. Have we ever talked about that?
Pain science. I think probably, yeah. And that kind of stems from your own journey dealing with that kind of stuff too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had my business, and then I moved in 2020. Is it 2020 or 2021? I don't know. At some point, and then my mental health while I had my business took a steep nosedive. Trigger warning. Talks of suicide.
Yeah.
So really out of nowhere, my mental health just like, not completely out of nowhere. I got into a relationship that was admittedly very toxic on like both ends, and that definitely triggered things. And it definitely like triggered, some like trauma stuff in me, but not like completely. Like there was some aspect outside of that my mental health just tanked very quickly. So within like a 5-day span, I was all of a sudden suicidal. Like I couldn't look at a tree without wishing I was like in it.
Yeah.
I won't go further than that.
Yeah.
And so it just became really bad. So I had been working with a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. I can put functional in front of it, in front of hers instead of mine, because she can do testing. She took an extra course to do the testing.
Like blood work and stuff?
I actually think it's autonomic response testing. That's the testing that I initially had done. It's cool.
Okay.
It's energy testing.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is cool.
So I told her, and I was like, hey, I'm like really suicidal out of nowhere. And she was like, cool, send me your hair and your fingernails in the mail. And I was like, that's a serial killer thing.
I don't want you casting spells on me.
Yeah,
what are you talking
that's
about?
what they did. No, so I did that. And so they did autonomic response testing on me using my energetic field like through the hair and nails, which is really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it came back that the things, so I'll like piece this into two pieces. So like the first part was that I was, in her words, I remember this like word for word because we were talking on the phone. She was like, okay, your results. Your vitamin D is through the floor and your magnesium is also through the floor. It's not even through the floor, it's into the basement. She's like, actually, no, it's not even in the basement. It's in through the basement floor. Like it's underground because my magnesium was so low. So she's like, you have to start supplementing. Mind you, keep in mind, I was already supplementing with magnesium at the time.
Just not enough.
Not enough. I needed like 8 times the dose because my stress was so high.
Yeah.
So fun fact, people, just because you're taking it doesn't mean you're taking enough.
Yeah. Right.
So I started supplementing with magnesium and vitamin D, and immediately, you know, this is how I always describe it. Those Claritin commercials. Let me put my phone on airplane mode. It was
Like where everything gets like clear.
Like the glasses, they like wipe it clear, and then all of a sudden, like life is bright again. That is literally what I felt like taking that. So I was like, oh, holy shit! Like there is something to nutrition and just like not, you know, like I didn't have like a benzo deficiency. I didn't have like a Prozac deficiency. I had a nutritional deficiency, and so I was like, after that is really when I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. This is what I want to do. I want to help people the way that I've been helped.
Yeah.
So what they also found, I'll just like list all of my ailments. What I also found, they also found during that autonomic response testing is that I have Lyme, 2 co-infections with Lyme, Bartonella. I was thinking earlier, I think it's rickettsia. It might be Ehrlichia. Don't know. And those don't even sound like real things. I'm just like saying syllables.
I don't know what they are, but there's got to be something to it.
Yeah. So, so I had those. They didn't find mold. I found mold later in my own urine testing that I did like a year and a half ago, and as well as a retrovirus. I still don't really know what that is, so don't ask me questions there because I don't know. And so I got better, and they were like, okay, but you have to start detoxing. Yeah. And so I started taking all of the supplements to start detoxing. I remember
when you were doing that, I think.
Yes. Yeah, because I was unwell. Yeah. Like I would walk into the gym and I looked like my... Did you watch SpongeBob growing up?
Yeah, sometimes,
okay, so like, you know when that episode when Squidward's nose pops off and he just like deflates? I feel like that's what I looked like. Like I'll look back at those photos sometimes and be like, oh my God. Yeah. You do not look good. It just like, because I was so sick detoxing. And so what I now know is that I actually pushed myself way too hard in detoxing, and I tried to push myself through what are called Jarisch-Herxheimer's reactions, which are really die-off symptoms. And those die-off symptoms pushed me into what I think now have. I think I've always had it a little bit, so now I'm dealing with a condition called MCAS. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay.
No, this is all new to me.
I know. I have so many things. And I just like, I don't like to think of myself as someone with a chronic illness, but like I am. I have to accept that. Yeah. So MCAS is mast cell activation syndrome. So essentially my immune system is overreacting to everything. So yesterday I went for a 4-mile hike and then I immediately went paddleboarding. That was enough stress on my body that I'm now having a flare up today. Yeah. And this is a very teeny tiny flare up. Like if it was bad, I would be bed bound. And so I actually pushed myself through detoxing into this kind of overreaction of my immune system. I think I was predisposed to it. I don't think everyone's done that, but it's always been confusing to me why I've been able to help clients detox for like 8-10 months consistently, but God forbid I take one pill that they take 6 of. When I was in California, I actually started having pseudo seizures.
Yeah.
So, so it's like
Like a little seizure?
it looks like a seizure, but it's not.
Okay.
I actually had like 4 or 5 of them Thursday night.
And it's your body just like responding, like the overactivation of the immune system that causes...
It's histamine.
Histamines. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when people think of histamine, they think of like runny nose and
Allergies.
sinus congestion, right? But histamines are literally, they're in your connective tissue, they're in your gut, so you can get symptoms anywhere. My symptoms tend to be chronic fatigue. I've fallen asleep while driving. Brain fog so severely that I've gotten in my car and forgotten how to drive. Like I've like gotten in my car and been like, what do I do now? Like I cannot compute. I've gotten lost. I grew up in this area. I've gotten lost in Wilton.
Yeah.
Like at the big traffic light.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to get home.
Wow.
How bad that brain fog is sometimes. Wow. A new symptom that I've developed is now vomiting. So it's just like, it's not fun. But anyways, so I had a lot of those symptoms. I got better. That was such a long side story. I apologize.
No, I mean, I think, like I said, coaches, myself, and I had a bunch of coaches and nutrition people on, everybody sort of says the same thing where like it's their own injury or illness that they deal with and they overcome that drives them to want to help people. So it's like you're telling your backstory. It's like where it comes from. So it's important.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So then I got better. I decided at some point to stop detoxing because I couldn't function. I was trying to run a business, and running a business and being severely ill every day don't really coincide.
Yeah. Business is stressful as it is. I mean, tiring just, generally, and then having to deal with all that other stuff. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So I decided to stop detoxing, and I had moved back at home with my parents, and their house has a lot of mold in it. So I'm unsure what triggered it, but my mental health took a second nosedive. So this time it wasn't so much depression, again, trigger warning, suicidal talk. It wasn't so much depression, it was rage. And I marketed my business as anxiety because I think I hadn't healed the fact that rage is okay.
Yeah.
But it was pure unadulterated rage. I wanted to, trigger warning, I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to kill other people. I was rage driving 90 miles up the highway. And I'm a slow driver when I'm not like this. To go hiking at 6 or 7 p.m. without any water, without any equipment, because if I didn't go work off what I was feeling, it felt like I genuinely was going to implode. I could not function.
Just irrational thoughts and behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, I had a plan to commit suicide. Thank God. Yeah. It got pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I'm
glad you didn't.
Same. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
So I actually was in school for nutritional therapy at this time, and my teacher at the time said one sentence. She was like, "Oh, nutritional lithium can be great for health." I was like, "Awesome. Let me open another tab and order this right now." And I did. And nutritional lithium, I was taking 0.05 milligrams. Not even a full milligram. And immediately it's if I felt like I was a tornado, just up in the clouds, being whipped around constantly by my own emotions, my nervous system, just everything was out of whack. And when I took nutritional lithium, it's my feet finally came down and touched the ground again, and I felt human. I was like, what is this magical drug?
Wow.
And so yeah, I just it just kind of furthered my journey, and then I started my business, focused on helping people with anxiety and mental health issues, which I have done, but I've also helped people get pregnant, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
I was in my bed sobbing last night because they actually had their baby yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Sobbing.
That feels good.
Probably one of the most rewarding feelings I've ever felt in my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have helped a lot of people. But yeah, I've had a crazy journey. It's definitely not over because I just realized or learned that I have MCAS. So it's a brand new journey. I still need to detox from the Lyme and the mold and the parasites and, everything else. But you can't do that until you get the histamine levels under control. And right now I have it depends on the week. Sometimes I can go 2 weeks without a flare up. Lately this week and last week, I'm probably having like 4 or 5 little ones every day. But then I'll also get, like, if I eat sugar,
Yeah.
no bueno.
Yeah.
That's not even true. Sometimes I can eat sugar and I'm okay, but sometimes I eat sugar and again, gore warning, I vomited blood in my last, like, big flare up.
Wow.
So, like, they're getting, and, like, I'm having pseudo seizures. And so pseudo seizures could be the mold toxicity or Bartonella. Those are symptoms of either, I think, and Lyme. So it's just like, I have to get to those root causes.
Well,
it's not there yet.
That's what I was just thinking, is that, you're taking a different approach. I think most people would probably medicate, with pharmaceuticals or whatever. But you're trying to get to the root cause of the problem and treat with food and supplements and just a more like in tune, aware approach. And I think that's really smart. I think that's what we should be doing in the medical system, is focusing on nutrition and everything. But it is a longer, harder journey to get there. But you're actually getting to the root of the problem and not just like covering it up with medicine,
Yeah.
You're not taking.
Go ahead.
You're not taking, what is it, like a Klonopin or whatever, Xanax, to try to feel better. You're like, no, I'm going to tough this out and see what I can do on my own. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's admirable.
Oh, thank you. It's excruciating work.
Yeah.
But I agree, like, going off of what you just said, like, I'm really at a place, and this is actually one of the reasons, there were many reasons I stepped away from my business.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons is I'm getting a little frustrated with functional medicine, if I'm being honest. Just because everything is a biohack, everything is a supplement, everything, like, functional medicine, which used to be very healing, is now just becoming a greener version of Western medicine.
Yep.
Oh, you have this, take a supplement. Oh, you have this. And it's like, why aren't we meeting with our practitioners outside where it's healing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm learning all about, like, leptin resistance before insulin resistance and how early morning sunlight is what reverses that. Grounding. Like, my healing, my, like, headspace in my healing right now is just more, like, nature focused.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to be. So when I heal, I want to do it with herbs, and I don't even mean supplement herbs, which, like, it's just the form that you're taking it.
Sure.
If I have to buy one more bottle of supplements, I'm gonna, like.
Yeah. Yeah, and it
Sucker
just,
punch.
I think that nature can be so healing, and you say that as like a general statement, and it's true, but what you're talking about is like these things that have been labeled as biohacking really just comes down to like getting back to how we used to live and living naturally and looking to the earth for our cure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steven, I don't know how to say his last name, Buhner. He's a herbalist. He has like 25 books or something, and he has books on healing Lyme and Bartonella and mold and, like, maybe not mold, I'm unsure. All of these different things, just using herbs. And one of the things he talks about is just making it, how we as a society need to make healing not as, I don't know how to word this, but like a rich people thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds bad, but like, I was going to a local, probably like the top local functional medicine clinic in this area, like within 50 miles or so. In 2 weeks, I spent $1,700 just on like on the appointments and testing. The only thing I got back at that time was, hey, you need to do more testing. And I was like,
spend more money.
My eyes started twitching. Like, so 2 more testing, and they gave me a probiotic.
Wow.
So I quit. I quit that because, one, that's an obscene amount of money. Especially, and like, I have a job now. I'm not like living off of that, but I need that $1,700.
Yeah.
You know, and like, there are people significantly less fortunate who can't spend that amount of money. So like, what are we going to do? And this is, again, another thing that I'm really focused on. And I know we were talking like prior to getting started. It's just like, how do we make this natural, holistic healing, biohacking, whatever it is, for the public? Because like, it's
more
not
accessible.
just the very sick people who need this, it's everyone.
Yeah.
And so like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And that's my dream, is just to open like a little healing farm. There's no overhead lights. It's on land. We use the land. I'm getting really into like healing frequencies and vibrations. You would love the book that I'm reading. It's so good. And just, also using those modalities in addition to herbs and if we need to medications.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I'm just like reaching now into like a more holistic version, an even more holistic version of healing. Is kind of where my headspace is at, and I've been exploring that for a couple of months.
That's great. I think, the biohacking space, I mean, I followed this guy, Ben Greenfield, for a long time, and he was one of the originators of it, and he was like, keep one foot in, the past and tradition, and then one foot in the future. So, although he does all sorts of wild biohacks, like he was experimenting with penis pills.
Sorry? What?
Penis pills, like male enhancement, like erection stuff, just to see if it
like
worked.
Organ meat? Penis pills?
No, like supplements and stuff. He would take like gas station boner pills.
I don't even know what that means.
So guys that have trouble, erectile dysfunction,
Yeah.
will sometimes take things to help them in that area, right?
Oh, like Viagra.
Viagra, whatever.
Okay.
So he would try or like growth,
Oh.
So he did this experiment, and this is just one thing, and we're going off on a tangent now, but it's interesting. So he did everything from like gas station pills to like stem cell injections into his penis. And so that's like an example of something wild and crazy. So he does stuff like that, and he's always experimenting with different peptides are really hot right now. So he's always experimenting with like the next newest thing and just using his body as kind of like just a test subject and an experiment.
Yeah.
But he's like, don't do any of that shit before you wake up and go put your feet on the ground,
Yes.
and like go hug a tree or take a walk or sit by water, positive ions. And like, he breaks down the science of all the stuff that, we're talking about, like being in nature. But he's like, don't worry about taking peptides or any of this or that if you're not already like rooted in nature.
Right.
So I think that is more important than anything. Like, start there. Big blocks. I always talk about, on this podcast and with my own business and everything, it's like the pillars are, mental health, physical health, which includes exercise and nutrition, financial health, and spiritual health, right? And those are like foundational things.
Yeah.
So let's start there, and then you can go out and worry about all that other stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. In the chat that I gave last week to a local social working company, it's not a company,
Business.
Okay.
Organization.
There we go. Organization. At the end of those talks, I like to really emphasize, like, because I'll be like, okay, now we're open for questions. Ask me things. And people will be like, what about my macros? And what about salt intake? And all of these, like, super, like, micro, tiny, important things. And I have to always, like, bring them, not back to reality, but just, like, look at the broader thing of this. Like, is your children, because it was mostly for kids with like defiancy issues, like they're just like, troubled kind of kids. It's like, look at yours and their diet. Is it mostly processed food? If the answer is yes, I can swear.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck what kind of salt you use? Or, well, the kind of salt is important, but like how much, right? Like all of these little like macro, but about saturated fats and like all of these things. I don't give a single shit.
Yeah.
Just work on slowly switching your diet to whole foods.
Yeah.
Because that is going to have a profound impact on your mental health. I'm a great example. When I started working on my blood sugar regulation, eating more protein, eating more fiber, all of a sudden I was like, I'm actually kind of a chill person. I'm not super reactive all the time.
Yeah.
And like, it's that all I changed was my diet, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't having a bagel for breakfast.
Yeah.
I was having eggs. So something as simple as that. And people love, well, and I don't think it's people. I think it's social media.
I was just gonna say it's what's out there. Everybody's harping on food dyes and seed oils and
Right.
like okay, great,
Yes,
sure,
and-
but like why don't we just develop a better foundation first?
Right. And there's so much conflicting information.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's
like
terrible.
Like the phytonutrients in spinach and kale. It's like,
Yeah.
God forbid, don't eat those. They steal your minerals. And it's like, maybe.
Yeah.
Whenever the one question I will say I get asked every single time, regardless of like who I'm speaking to, is raw versus cooked vegetables, right? Because like
Yeah.
raw, there's phytonutrients that can like steal minerals, and cooked, you're losing some of the mineral content and the nutrient content. So like, what do we do? I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Figure it like
Just eat
not
it.
to be like callous, right? But
Well, yeah, but
figure it out for you, and you have to pay attention. And that's
Yeah.
another thing that I feel like people hate is there is no one answer for everyone across the board, because
Right.
every single body is different. What might work great and heal the shit out of me is not going to heal the shit out of you. So it's like
yeah,
you have to figure out what works for you, and you have to pay attention to do that. And I think when we're so used to being a hamster on a wheel,
yeah.
I think I made that up. Is that a saying? Hamster on a
No,
wheel?
that's yeah.
It is?
You're on the hamster wheel. Yeah, that's like
Okay.
you're just so narrow focused and running full pace all the time. You don't really have time to think about like awareness or what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that like why working with a coach or someone like yourself is super important, because you can bounce those ideas off them. Like, oh, I had I had a turkey sandwich and then it really made me feel this way. Why do you think that is? Well, let's talk about that.
Right.
It's important to not like sometimes you don't have the answers for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if you're new to nutrition or you're changing your diet for the first time. It's important to work with somebody that knows what they're talking about, can help you through these things. We all need coaches. Coaches need coaches. You work with coaches. I do. I work with therapists. It's all super important. But yeah, I think the awareness piece is, and the emotional piece too is really big. I talk with fitness coaches and nutrition coaches, and I think that's like 80% of it, right? It's like I could tell you what to eat, but if you don't actually know how it's making you feel, if you don't have that awareness, or like if you're eating good during the day and then you're binge eating at night, like that's a huge component, and that has nothing to do with like your food. Well, it does have to do with your food choices, but it's a lot more mental, right? And I think you have a really good grasp on all that, right? With your practice and your business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for my new clients, I'll have them take what's called a nutritional assessment questionnaire. It's a 321 questionnaire.
Wow.
Yeah, it's long. And what I find consistently across the board, which I find it's not necessarily surprising, but I do find it interesting, is that women, and this is subjective, right? This is not like objective data that like is 100% true, but it gives me a clue into your body, your perception of your body.
Yeah.
Women across the board, almost all of them that I've worked with, have really high levels. They mark everything as high or
Okay.
higher.
Yeah.
Men will mark everything as lower, and I think it's because men are just not as in tune with their bodies and their symptoms. They're not taught to pay attention, and I think that's, it's a disservice to everyone, like adults, kids, like literally everyone, to not be able to slow down and pay attention and
Right.
listen to your body. But yeah, I completely agree that I think like what we're talking about, I would call that like nervous system regulation, right? Like, is your nervous system just shut down and you're scrolling on TikTok for 6 hours?
Yeah.
That's not great, right? Or is your nervous system so worked up that you literally cannot sit still because it feels so uncomfortable to just be with yourself?
Yeah.
And you can't really be in either to heal. So it's like shimmying yourself towards the middle.
Yeah.
And that is, I always tell clients, like some of my favorite recommendations that I give to my nutrition clients are never the food ones.
Right.
Literally never.
Right.
One of my recent, actually the last session that I had with one of my nutrition clients, we were talking about how she wanted to go to bed earlier. She was like, I want to go to bed, but I feel like I can't because I need that time at the end of the day to like relax. I don't have any time during the day. And she is now eating clean. She works out like 5-6 days a week, but she's just like she's the hamster on the wheel.
Yeah.
Right? So the recommendation, we like worked through this, and I was like, I can't just tell her to go to bed earlier, right? Because like she knows she needs to. If she like could, she would, right? She needs that time to de-stress, and I agree, we all do. So the recommendation I gave her was, we parsed this out, and it's like, where can we fit time in to de-stress earlier so that you don't have to do it for 2 hours before you go to bed, and you can go to bed earlier. So now what I have her doing is dancing and shaking her ass while she makes breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
She sent me a message, and she was like, wow, dancing really helps with de-stressing. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
hell yeah.
Like, yes, I do nutrition coaching, but I feel like I do so much more than that.
Yeah.
I like sometimes want to call it lifestyle coaching, because like I gave another, I have a couple, the ones who just had their baby. One of my prescriptions, recommendations to them was like, hey, you two, I want you to start playing Battleship together, because they have like a board game Battleship. That's what they used to play when they had more time for themselves. I want you to start playing that at dinner, and I want you to start like playing against each other. Have they done it? No, but that's fine. But it's something like, it's just, I feel like holistic nutrition, when you're working with a good practitioner, it's more than just the food.
Yeah.
And I think one thing, if I can like expand on that, is I trust my clients that they're the expert in what they do. Always. Like did you read Motivational Interviewing?
No.
Okay. So it's like a textbook. It's not the most fun read.
Yeah.
But it's basically the idea that, and I don't think I read the full thing, so if you did, don't yell at me.
They're gonna come for you.
Yeah, they will. In my DMs, that's not what that book's about. No, just kidding. I think I've only ever gotten like 2 hate DMs. Anyways, it's about like, clients know what they need to do. Like when it comes to nutrition, like you know exactly what you need to do, but why can't you get there? It's like the emotional piece that we're talking about. And so it's honoring the changes, the perspectives, everything about the client, and so like I let them lead our sessions for the most part. I have things, I'm always prepared if they're like, everything feels good, and like, cool, let's move in this direction.
Right.
And I have a gripe, because it's something that I've dealt with, and it's something that I've had clients deal with other people, of practitioners thinking, doctors, practitioners, whomever, thinking that they know all, and what they say goes, and not honoring a client's perspective and journey. And I just think that if you're working with someone who doesn't respect your perspective, that might be a red flag that you need to move on from that coach.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because if I'm telling you that doing, and this is true for me, that doing high intensity, I want to lose weight, but doing high intensity workout makes me sick. Real, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you tell me, well, that's the only way to lose weight, so you have to push through. That's not your person.
No, yeah.
That's
you have to be able to meet them where they're at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's all interwoven when you talk about, like you said, like lifestyle coaching, right? It's much more than nutrition. I mean, there's, like I said, those pillars, right? Like, are you eating right? That's the main thing, I guess. But are you moving? Are you finding time to de-stress? Are we addressing mental health? Are we doing that? And financial wealth, I think, is a big piece of that too. Are you stressed out because of that? So yeah, it's all interwoven, and I think if you're going to take a holistic approach, you have to address all those things. And it's nice. I was talking with somebody else last week about, it's nice to work with a coach who's been through some shit, who's like dealt with some of these things themselves. So that they have their perspective, but also know that, like, I know what it's like to feel like shit. So when you come to me and you're saying that you don't feel well, I know how you feel, so I can meet you there. I'm not just like reading off a textbook and saying like, yeah, HIIT training is the only way you can do this. You have to eat a high protein diet. And like there's no one size fits all. It's different for everybody. And being able to dive in and meet people where they're at and customize programming and all that is like super, super important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you can't, that's like the people, and there's nothing against science, but it's like the people who like scream evidence-based science. They're like, well, this is evidence-based, so that's the only way to do it. And it's like, it's not. There's a million ways to skin a cat. That's such a gross saying, but like there is.
Yeah, it is, huh?
You know, like people right now are like eating a carnivore, like strict carnivore diet and literally healing their anxiety and depression.
Sure.
And then we know someone who went completely vegan and healed their mental health issues. So like
Yeah.
it just depends on the body.
Yeah.
And maybe there is some like, you know, a Venn diagram, maybe there is some like third circle there. But you just can't, I don't want to say can't rely on science because that's wild.
Yeah.
But it's not the end all be all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because it works for somebody or it worked in a trial, like, okay, but that's not the miracle cure. Like,
Right.
if you start taking this one supplement, it's not going to cure everything, you know, even though the people on Instagram are telling you, oh, look, there's 700 research-backed papers that say that this thing is great for you. Like, okay, but that's not my issue. Like, I need to do something different, you know?
Right. And then there's always like the outliers.
Yeah.
You know, like this worked for a vast majority. That's fantastic. Let's move towards that. Let's implement that. But let's also examine the other people who it wasn't successful for. Why was that? You know, like we don't
Yeah.
just. Have you ever watched? I post about it like every year. Sean Akers' TED Talk, The Happiness Advantage. Or I think
No.
that's his book. I think the TED Talk is named something different. You have to watch it.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll check it out.
It's so funny. He's hysterical. But anyways, his what he is in the beginning of that TED Talk, he says like, excuse me, I told you I was gonna burp. Excuse me. He talks about how, you know, a lot of science wants to like bring everyone up to the average, and what he's doing with the happiness advantage is bringing the average up.
Okay.
So that's just like what this reminds me of. Is like we don't want any stragglers, and
Yeah.
you know that goes back to like just me focusing on like how do we make, you know, holistic coaching in general, like what you do with strength coaching and nutrition, like but also everything else, like all of your pillars, like how do we make that accessible for everyone? And
Yeah.
that's such a hard thing
Yeah.
because like you do sometimes have to buy the herbs
Yeah.
and the supplements, like you just like sometimes there is no way around that. But I also think it's just promoting everything that you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
how do we get to those 5 pillars of health?
There's just got to be more voices that, you know, that are like us, that are like kind of, I don't want to say general, but, you know, less hyper focused on certain things, you know, and just more taking the holistic approach. There needs to be a better voice for that. I think what's out there on social media is always geared to get likes and views and clicks and sell things and money and whatever. So, and that's not like a well-balanced approach, right? It's like, no, take this thing. This is what you need. And so, or do this. This is what you need to do. And I have a, you know, I've got a $500 thing that you can buy that'll help you with it. So, yeah, there just needs to be more people talking about things that are accessible and approachable. And we need to make it more approachable. I think people get so overwhelmed with everything that's going on, like, and talked about, and then they have their own stress in their own lives. So people just need to simplify things. I mean, that's like my biggest thing is like, how can we distill it down and make it absorbable, so that you can actually implement these things in your life and not think that it's just made for people with money or people that are smart, you know? So,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah. And science really isn't everything. I think there's so many things. I know you said you wanted to talk about this, get a little bit ethereal nutrition.
Yeah.
I think that there's so many things that like science cannot explain. Like I was tripping out on this idea of what is a carrot, and I brought that to you. Like, what is it made of? And I was listening to a Terrence McKenna book, and he was talking about psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin, and like, you know, the compounds that came together in nature to create this compound that's in a fungus. It could be anything plant-based. And then I was thinking of like, oh, well, if that's what makes a mushroom, then what comes together to make a carrot or an onion or an herb that has like these compounds that are super beneficial, or they could be poisonous, you know? And to me, it's like, it's just so wild, and I have no idea how nature, God, Gaia, whoever, whatever you want to call it, comes together, consciousness comes together to create these things that are, you know, harmful or beneficial or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like, you could maybe with science, you could say, oh, here's what this compound is, but like, where and why? How did this come about? You know?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That reminds me just of like, I don't know if it's like a saying or I don't know what it is. Actually, it's a company. It's a company. It's called ION, but it stands for Intelligence of Nature.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. I'm gonna loop this back. That's one thing that I think a lot of people, especially with chronic illnesses or just people who are struggling, get to the point where they don't trust their bodies to heal. Let's loop this back to I'm making like a bunch of different like loops here.
I'll follow you.
Nature. So what you were talking about was like, how did a carrot come to be?
Yeah.
Which at the time when you first mentioned that, I was like, Steven, I don't know. And now I'm like, you're so right. Like, what is a carrot?
Right.
Like, so on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
But so nature has had trees, plants, carrots, what have you, cabbage, has had so long to figure that out.
Yeah.
So many years. And it's intelligent, right? So when we think about leaves falling and they fall, they shed in the fall, they stay down there, and they actually compost throughout the winter so that it feeds the soil and it helps them grow. That is such a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
It just keeps going. And I think, our bodies, we are nature.
Yeah.
We are nature. We are just...
We're no different from...
We are literally, like, we're animals as much as, like, deer and caribou and buffalo, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. And so we think of our bodies as being, like, very, like, separate from nature, when really we're the same things. And our body has that same positive feedback loop to heal when given the right environment.
Right.
One of my teachers... when I was in school for athletic training said this, and it just for some reason stuck with me like super hard. And it was for athletic training at the time, not nutrition. We don't heal bodies. Like, that's not what we're doing. We're providing the right environment for the body to heal itself.
Yeah.
And so like our bodies and nature, have this innate intelligence to heal. Like, they're supposed to do that. It's just all about figuring out what adjustments do we need to make to bring that about. And so, like, your body wants to heal. It does. It knows exactly how to, but you need to give it the right resources to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like, nutrition comes in, or you need to get into the right nervous system or emotional state to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, how did a carrot come to be? Well, it had way fucking longer to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, carrots have been here for thousands and thousands of years. They've had time to figure that out. And we're just living in a life that's so separate from nature and really, like, pulling it apart. And so we think of our bodies as these machines because everything is technology now and, like, gears.
Yeah.
I always tell my people that I work with for athletic training now at my job, like, your body is not a car. You can't just replace things and go. Why? Because it feels. Your body feels. So anyways, like, just like, I think the intelligence of nature and the intelligence of our body, like, that's how the carrot came to be. And then, have you ever heard of, again, this is me getting, like, way into energy medicine, but have you heard of Bach flower essences?
No.
Okay, so I just heard about these.
Bach flower.
Yeah, BACH.
Okay.
Essentially it's, you can make tinctures of flowers and you get the essence of them. So I'm doing acupuncture now and I'm getting, like, kind of into traditional Chinese medicine too.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about it, but I do know that I love acupuncture.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I'm going to acupuncture is to, like, open my heart and just make me, more open to love and to be loving, and that's how we're supposed to live, I think.
Sure.
And so in my first session, when I left, she was like, okay, I want you to be around, eat, surround, and, like, think about roses, because roses are associated with the heart and the opening of it. And so then when we get to, like, the essence of a carrot, right? Like, what is the essence of our food? Oh, and this is another thing I wanted to talk about too. Like, what is the essence of food, right? So when we're feeling stressed, people will often reach for root vegetables, beets, carrots. Why? They're rooted in the ground. They have the essence of being rooted.
The grounding.
Right.
Yeah.
Grounding. And so when you want to feel lively, we'll and like lighter, we'll eat more light leafy greens
Yep.
and things that are lighter. And so are we also pulling the essence of those vegetables? And so months ago, like back in the summer, I think I started, I don't know how this came to me. I think I was just driving and I was like, food is my religion. And then it just like stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I've really just been like thinking about that since, and paying, and this is getting really out there with this, but like paying my respect to my food by slow cooking it.
Sure.
Meaning, you
Yeah.
know those like chopper things where you just like put the veggie in it and then you
Slap chop.
is that what it is?
Pow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it just like chops it.
Yeah.
So like I don't want one of those, not because I don't want more clutter in the kitchen, which is true, but because I want to, that carrot, we'll just keep running with the carrot, right?
Yeah.
That carrot took months to grow.
Right.
And so I believe it to be like a energetic, alive thing that wants to feed me its life force that it
Yes.
has to me. And so
Yes.
for me to just put it in that and treat it as if it's an object, again,
Right.
I'm getting like so out there with it.
No, I agree.
I'm sure you agree, right?
Yeah.
Like slow chopping it is showing your, like a cutting board and a knife. I call it like bare bones cooking.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have like an actual name for it, but it's like letting the essence of the carrot live through by that appreciation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
No.
getting like so loopy with it.
No,
but-
totally. I agree. I think cooking can be sort of a spiritual experience if you pay respects to the food, you know? If it comes from a really good place, yeah, you don't want to just throw it in something or whatever. Like, you want to feel it, you want to smell it, you want to take care of it. And putting that, like, respect and love into your food just helps nourish you more,
Yes.
you know? Than like a carrot from Walmart, you know, that you just throw, or shredded carrots in a bag that have
Right.
already like lost most of their nutrition, but yeah, their essence, yeah. And so I always talk about getting food as close to the source as you can, you know, whether it's meat or vegetables or whatever. Like, go to your local farmer and get, because these people grow these things with intention and love and care. And then you have to carry that torch. You have to, when you're cooking or eating these things, you have to, you know, spend some time with them and put love and care into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And it-
so glad you're on the same wavelength there.
Well,
'Cause
yeah.
when I was thinking about this, I'm like, this is crazy. And someone actually told me, they were like, they got into like the socioeconomics of it, and they were like, well, that's not feasible for everyone. I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're gonna buy a steam fresh bag of veggies and actually eat the veggies, that's obviously better than eating none.
Yeah.
But if you have like the, what I'll call like privilege of the time and the resources to do those things, I think it's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason, like, if you were to go to, like, a food line somewhere in, like, a low-income area, they serve a lot of, like, comfort foods, right? And these things might be made with, you know, mass-produced foods, food products or whatever, but there's just something about, you know, the love and care that's put into it, to just to know, like, from the chefs, right? Like, you can put, in the same way that food gives you that nutrients and that essence and that energy, you can put your own into it.
Right.
So, like, you might not be having the most quality thing, but if I give you a bowl of soup that has my care and love in it, like, that's going to nourish you more than if you went and bought it from the store out of a can or something.
Yeah.
I feel that way,
Yeah.
you know?
I agree. I think it's that transference of energy.
Yeah.
Robin Wall Kimmerer, have you ever read Braiding Sweetgrass?
No, but I've heard you talk about it, and it's on my list. Yeah,
Read it.
I will.
I'll lend
Yeah.
it to you if you want.
Sure?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll bring it with your bowls.
Okay.
So, yeah, Robin Wall Kimmerer, she talks about how in Native American culture, they don't have nouns. Is it nouns? Yeah, they don't have, proper nouns? I don't know. Whatever. They don't think of trees and carrots and grass as others. They think of them as people. So in her native language, which is heartbreakingly dying, and there's only like, when you read the book, I think there's only like 7 speakers of it left.
Yeah.
Which is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But they don't say this chapter, I think it's like the second chapter. I was well, let's be realistic. I cried in like every chapter because the book is just beautiful.
Yeah.
But she talks about how in the language, it's to be a tree. The language is to be a tree, to be a carrot, to be grass, to be air, to be the wind, to be fire. And so it brings the life to these things that we often think of as like inanimate objects. And
Right.
with that, when we think of them, so like she references like tree people multiple times. Like those are people. They're just not human people, but they're
Yeah.
tree people. Do you know Bunny the dog who like pushes the buttons?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen
No,
that?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
The dog can like full on talk. It has existential crisis. It's like, why dog? And it's like too
Wow.
much. Anyways, I just think of that because she refers to like human creatures and like animal creatures. Like the bunny knows that different, whatever. Anyways, but with thinking of those things as living people, I'm going to keep referring to them as people, even though they're not human people. It brings the respect back.
Yeah.
You can't disrespect. I mean, I guess you can, right? Like,
Oh,
but
we do all the time. Yeah.
Right? But you're not going to disrespect something as much when you think of it as a person. So when we think of the earth and food and our natural resources as living beings, is the air, the water as a whole, as a water people, as air people. I know that sounds kind of silly, but like
I get it.
it brings with it an amount of respect. And so
Yeah.
when we think of food, whole food,
Right.
as its identity, I agree. I think it nourishes us more. There's a transference of energy, and just like that appreciation
Yeah.
goes so much farther. And I think for us, maybe like when it comes to us eating like animal protein,
Yeah.
right? I'm okay doing that, even though I wouldn't hunt or kill because I just don't have that in me,
Sure.
because I have that level of respect.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, honestly, like I'm not a prescriptively like religious person, but I'm very clearly spiritual, right?
Right.
Like we both are.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of like the importance of like prayer before dinner. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a
That's
prayer
what I was
to
thinking.
God, thank you for
Yeah.
the food. It can just be like, thank you, carrot.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think I was just reading this book on consciousness. It's called Lights On. I forget the name, but anyways, of the author. But plants and animals have consciousness as well. It's dives into like what is consciousness, and like if a tree grows upward towards the sun, it has like, what is it like to be a tree, or what is it? So you were saying to be a tree, to be a carrot, to be water. Like if you can associate what it's like to be something, then that thing has consciousness. And so when you think about something that has a consciousness, that is a living thing, and you have reverence for that, it makes you just appreciate that much more, and it helps you slow down. And to get back to that awareness piece, right? Like if you're taking the time to make a meal, you're going to be way more aware and way more conscious of the way that makes you feel and what goes into it. It's not just like throw a bunch of sugar and stuff into a bowl to make brownies. It's like, why don't we try like making sweet potato brownies with like real cocoa, and these are privileged things, but I think it doesn't have to be like that extreme. It's just taking time to acknowledge what it is that you're putting into your body, and the way that it affects that.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the philosophy of nutrition, right?
That's definitely what we're into.
Geeking out on that. Yeah, I mean, I do. I just think it's important. I mean, like I said, I feel like I am privileged, and sometimes I do look at food as, just proteins, carbs, and fats. If I'm busy all the time, and I'll have to grab something or whatever from the store that I didn't prepare, and in that case, I'll look at like what's the most bang for my buck, or what's the best choice here for how I'm feeling. But I really find that the best food is stuff that myself or somebody else prepares and is shared with people, because there's that love and that intention behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
completely
amazing.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Like sometimes, like I've bought the shredded carrots. I've
Sure.
bought the pre-cubed butternut squash.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just, it happens.
Yeah.
And like you can't like shame yourself for doing that if you like listen to this talk and you're like, I need to eat whole food all the time. Yes, I've been chosen. I'm allergic to cats.
Oh no.
That's fine. I'll suffer through. It's just doing like whatever you're capable of doing, and like when you have the opportunity, like if you're gonna cook for like the family on the weekend, like maybe then do like that. Is there a word for, like, I call it bare bones cooking, where it's like cutting board, knife.
I just call it cooking.
Hello.
Got a little visitor here with beautiful eyes.
I know, so pretty.
So we should talk. We're an hour in, but I do want to talk about the Food is Mood program, because that's something that we're doing together along with Vicky from the Saratoga Center for Families, and it's a program that combines nutrition and mental health, and talks a little bit about that and how to, we don't do diet plans or anything. We just talk kind of simplistically, like I said before, like boiling things down to make it easy for families that are dealing with mental health issues to be able to use nutrition as a tool to help combat that, or I'm not sure how to put it, but
just how to use it as a tool. How do you use food as a tool to support your mental health? And so we talk about that first piece, right? Vicky talks about that in the first half, is like, you got to slow down and you have to start paying attention. She talks a lot about that nervous system regulation because she is a therapist. So she comes at it from that angle. And I think that's like what we kept coming back to. It's like the first piece is you have to slow down. Yeah. And that's exactly how we
awareness.
We've worked that program into. So the first part, and then Steven presents on cooking and cooking basics. I feel so bad when I buy Italian seasoning. Like, I should just make that myself. Yeah. Steven's gonna be disappointed.
Go start a garden, plant the seeds, pick the stuff fresh, dry it out, because you have all that time, right?
I do. Yeah. I bought dill, like a dill plant. I was gonna put it in my garden, but it's so cold all the time. I know I could plant it. I just didn't. It died. Yeah. So
I'm kidding, by the way. Like, no, Italian seasoning's fine.
I know. But Steven goes over, like, you go over, like, how the basics of cooking. Because there's, I don't want to name drop, so I'll just not say her name. But someone in the program last time who had a fully processed diet, and she didn't really start to see, that's not fair for me to say, I don't know. But when Vicky helped her change her diet from fully processed to, like, more whole foods, she felt this, like, profound expansion in her life. Yeah. Right? She was able to, like, change her job and, like, just kind of come out of her shell. Yeah. And, like, food gave her that. So.
Yeah. Well, I call it bridging the gap, right? So, like, like you said, Vicky focused on the more the mental awareness piece, and then you get into nutrition science and, like, how certain vitamins and minerals will actually affect your gut microbiome and your brain and how that works, and it's super amazing. But then, where do you bridge that gap? Like, you can have all that science and information, but if you don't know how to chop a carrot, then what do then it's all for nothing, Like, it's a difference between, book smarts and street smarts, so to speak. It's like, how do you actually do this nutrition thing, this whole foods thing, and cooking is an essential part of that. And as we talked about before, there's so much more to cooking than just making the fuel that goes into your body. It's a spiritual practice for me anyways. But yeah, you have to know cooking basics and, like, what to have in your kitchen to make these things possible. So yeah, I think it's bridging the gap. But you get into, like, more about the science of nutrition and the gut microbiome and stuff, and that is, like, whew, for me. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but
that's not true.
I mean, I know, but I've just so simplified things for myself. Like, I don't get to nerd out as much with people like you. So, like, it's just not in my forefront anymore. And I understand the basics, but you really break it down, which I think is really cool and important for people to know that stuff.
Yeah. And I think one thing I like to focus on too is symptoms and signs so that people can start to recognize it again once they slow down and pay attention.
Yeah.
Start to recognize what symptoms are. The cat's already getting to me. So, you know, like, if you, like you said earlier, like if you're dieting and eating well all day long and then you get home from work and you're a savage in your cabinets, like literally this was me. I poured out breadcrumbs and like put them in my mouth one time because my blood sugar was so dysregulated. That was so noticeable for me. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I used to eat dried pasta. I don't know why. I just like the crunch.
Those?
Yeah. I used to get a lasagna sheet and just crunch on it. I don't know what that was about.
That hurts my teeth. Blood sugar
Anyways.
dysregulation.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but like getting into the signs and the symptoms so that people can start to recognize that for themselves. Like, you know, for me, like when I start to like lose my spark and my spunkiness, my spice, I know that I probably need more green leafy vegetables in my life to feed my gut microbiome. And I shit you not, like the next day I'm like, is she back? Every time. How many days does it take me to realize that? Well, that's, you know, it depends. But so yeah, we dive into blood sugar regulation, deficiencies. Those are kind of digestion, the gut microbiome. That's really where, the main focus is. You know, because again, like that's the basics. Like those are the pillars, as you say, that will make the biggest impact. And then we can dial things in. Like, do you need more stomach acid? Well, I guess we do go over that. But like then we can dial things in. Be like, okay, I think your potassium is low. So like let's increase that. And then you can do that afterwards. But focusing on digestion, your gut microbiome, and blood sugar, in addition to learning how to cook and how to pay attention to yourself, it's a really good program that we've created.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's sort of a niche thing, but I think now that, especially with younger kids, anxiety and depression is on the rise like never before. And processed foods has a lot to do with that, I think. I feel like the food system and what we put into our bodies has a lot to do with it. So taking a look at that holistic approach rather than just, you know, medicating all the time and masking everything, let's try to get to the root of the problem. And that's what the program's mostly about, helping families that deal with that and educating people. And I think we talked a little bit before we got on here about like that's what we want to do, right? That's what you want to do, is like educate people. It's just the most rewarding thing, you know. Being a coach is great. Like I've always enjoyed working with people, super passionate about that. But I always say like the biggest part is I'm here to educate you so that you don't need me anymore. Like I'll show you how to deadlift, I'll show you how to do a kettlebell swing or whatever exercise. But like you should only be with me maybe 6 months to a year. And maybe that's not good for my business longevity, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help people. And so we're doing, it's coming up soon, the second iteration of Food is Mood. And we'll definitely have Vicky on so that we can go over that, like with all three of us, and go a little bit more into detail. But I'm really excited. I think we're doing really cool stuff.
Me too.
Yeah. One last question, and this is like kind of a little bit of a left turn, but if you had, I always ask everybody, just 'cause I think it's a cool question.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So if you had one last meal, like if you were on death row and you could get one last meal, it could be anything you wanted, as much of it as you wanted. It could be like a whole table full of tons of different things. What do you think it would be?
Oh my God. I think I'm panicking.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll give you some time to think.
Okay.
And I say the same thing every week on this podcast, but it's fresh blueberry pancakes, sausage patties, New York strip steak, 2 eggs over easy, hash browns, like shredded potato hash browns, probably like a cup of fruit, and a tall beer.
Okay, so like this isn't like realistic. Like
No, you can have anything you want.
okay, I don't get full.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean, it's your last meal, so gorge.
Well, I don't think I could physically do that. Okay. Definitely like a turkey cranberry sandwich.
Yeah.
Gluten bread.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give me that gluten.
Yeah. Like a good mayo. I like love beef so much, but I honestly just like ground beef. Okay, wait. A good like fermented cheese. None of my dietary restrictions apply in this.
No, of course not.
A bird.
It doesn't matter because you're gonna be gone. So.
I died immediately after.
Yeah.
There's no repercussions.
Yeah.
So like a fermented burger, they do it down in Troy. Oh my God, it's so good.
Fermented cheese? Like a brie or something like that, or blue cheese? Is that what you mean?
I don't know. It said fermented burger.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not supposed to eat fermented foods. Forgot that. Ate it. Didn't feel good afterwards.
Oh no.
So good.
Okay.
And like a good brioche bun.
Okay.
Watermelon. Obviously.
Yeah.
A good ripe, perfectly ripe watermelon. I feel like there's got to be so many other things, but I think that's it.
That's good. That's good.
I feel like that was so lame.
No. I mean that.
Ice cream, obviously.
I call it like a gobbler sandwich or whatever. That's just what we used to call it at one restaurant I worked at, where it's like a, Thanksgiving leftovers with like the cranberry mayo and the turkey and stuffing and
It's so good.
all that stuff in there. Yeah, it's good. I like that. Good answer. There's no right or wrong answer. It just is what it is.
I feel like it wasn't that good.
I think it's great.
We're gonna have to, by the time you post this, to be like, update on her last meal.
Yeah. So I just ask everybody that. I think it's a cool question.
like
Anthony Bourdain did it on one of his episodes, and I was like, yeah, I really like that. I've been asking people, it's like one of those things that gets you to like get to know somebody a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's like what's your most comfort food, And I say the breakfast thing or a big fat piece of lasagna, just smothered in cheese and sauce. Ugh.
I need to eat dinner.
Yeah.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. All right, so we'll wrap up, but tell people where they can find you if they want to work with you, or just anything you have going on, like your website and Instagram and all that stuff.
Okay, so my website's a little iffy. Again, I'm not actively pursuing my business right now. So you can try keepingwellwithkira.com. I can't remember if I disabled that or not. I am taking clients. I'm
Okay.
just not taking a lot of them right now. But I'm still working with clients in the same capacity, kind of like 3 months at a time. If you want to continue on, we can do another 3 months. And you can follow me on my Instagram, which is Keeping Well with Kira. Is that it?
I think so.
Okay.
Keeping Well, Kira. We'll link your, we'll tag you in the stuff when this comes
great,
out.
because
So.
I just forgot my Instagram hashtag.
I was looking at it. You have a program on there. Like you have a link in your bio for a program that you're doing. It's like a 4-week thing.
You know this better than I do. Yeah.
Did my research.
I like it. Yeah, so I do actually have a 12-week long course on really just like how to use nutrition to heal your mental health. I totally forgot. It used to be much more expensive. I literally dropped it down to like $100?
Yeah, I think so.
For a 12-week course that you go through yourself. You don't get any support from me. But I also have more free time on my hands. So like if you want to Instagram DM me because you have questions in the course, feel free.
Yeah.
I'll probably
slide
answer.
in them DMs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so I do have that. I can't even remember. Oh, Soothe Fuel Activator, SFA.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Soothe Fuel Activator is what that's called. So it teaches you, honestly, like what we're doing, just like more in depth.
Okay.
And it's a 12-week course. You do it on your own. It's $100. You can do that. You can work with me one-on-one. I'm not doing any group coaching right now just because I'm doing other things with my life, like reading about energy.
That's great.
That's it.
That's great. I'm excited for your journey from here on out. I mean, you've already done amazing things. It's been a pleasure to know you, and I look forward to working with you in the future and just seeing what you do, because I really think you're awesome. That's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I think everything you do is super cool, and I think we're in line in a lot of ways. So keep it up.
Yes. Thank you so much, Steven. Thank you for having me on, and I'm so glad that you're still doing everything that you're doing. I know we've had some discussions about other things recently, semi-recently, but I'm just so glad that you're still pursuing your passions, and you're such a positive influence on people's lives. So.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
I
appreciate you. All right, everybody, that's it for Green Fork Food for Thought. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you learned a little bit. You can check me out at Green Fork Eats, Green Fork on Facebook, eatgreenfork.com. Place your order for meals, weekly meal delivery, all that good stuff. Stay healthy, my friends. Peace.